So to kick things off, I do start with the same boring ass question every time. Simple introduction, guys. Let's go around the Zoom, if you will, and introduce yourself and just kind of a little background on you slash the band.
Cool. I'm Courtney Clinkert. I sing and I write in the band, and yeah, that's me. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Uh, I am Sawyer Bankson. I do bass and I help produce some demos for the band as well.
Sweet.
My name is Ian Harsh. I play guitar and write a lot of the music.
Awesome. So for those that aren't familiar with you, you guys are blowing up on TikTok. Like every fourth or fifth TikTok on my feed is you guys. So A+ on whatever you're doing over
Yeah.
there. But for people that aren't familiar, let's talk a little bit about kind of the formation of Definitely Maybe and where you've been to get to where you're at now, and kind of as cliche and gross corporate as it sounds, what's the vision for this project with you guys?
Oh, snap. I can start. I feel like Ian can fill in. But definitely formed a little bit on accident. So we all met in church band. We were church band kids, but I played drums in the church band, and then Sawyer played drums and bass, and Ian played guitar. So we were in a worship band together on Sunday nights. We all loved music, loved being on stage, and that was really the only way that we got to do that was playing in church, which is one of the main reasons that we kept doing it, even when it got difficult with church politics and things like that. That was our only source really of music and performance and live,
Yeah.
and we just craved it, so we wanted to keep doing it. And then we stayed friends. We were friends for about 3 years, I think, before Definitely Maybe it was even but a twinkle in our eyes. We Sawyer and I joined a different band right before COVID that lasted for a hot second and then broke up in a fiery disaster, and was no longer right when the pandemic hit. And at that point, the three of us had never really written music together. We started sort of trying during the pandemic, but I don't think any of our brains were working at full capacity. And so I think a lot of people who maybe had set themselves up better could be really creative during that time. That wasn't our time. So we actually didn't write anything together until 2021. And the summer of 2021, after a really rough year, 2020 obviously was horrible for everybody. Like I said, our band broke up in January 2020. In March 2020, my family dog died. And then in July 2020, my grandma died. And 2 days later, my sister died. And it was all during the pandemic. Oh, and we had just gotten married in the fall. It was our first year of marriage. And so it just a wild time. And I was going through some therapy and some medication, working through some trauma. So prior to that, I had never been able to write music. I was a drummer. That's what I did. But somehow in 2021, while I was doing the dishes, a melody with words just popped into my head for the first time ever. And I remember my hands shaking when I recorded the voice memo and texted it to Ian. And I was super embarrassed and I didn't want to do it, but I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, we're all going to die anyway. It's the pandemic.
Right.
It was kind of still in the thick of it. And then just, I think 2 minutes went by and Ian sent it back to me with guitar underneath. And we were like, oh my God, this sounds like an actual song. And we would end up getting that song completed, getting a couple others written, and getting that produced by an artist in Minneapolis before we even named our band, because we didn't think we had a band
Right.
until that point. We were like, well, let's just see how far this goes. And so it all started with that first song, and we haven't been able to stop since.
Awesome. Ian, did she
Yeah.
do a good job or
She did a great job. I mean, that's pretty much explained. I mean, just to add to what she said, yeah, we sort of, like, as you can tell, kind of just started by accident. And it is very funny. Like when we finished that first song before handing it off to a producer, the attitude at that point was like, oh my gosh, we did it. Like, let's celebrate this by making it a thing. And if it never happens again, then this one was a thing.
Yeah.
And through the process of finding a producer, working with said producer. By the way, it's an artist named Landon Conrath. Not in this genre, but definitely worth checking out. He was amazing. And it kind of, I think, we just realized through being there, working on a song, that stuff clicked. Like while we were there in the Airbnb, we wrote the next song that we released. And like it just snowballed from there. So yeah, I mean, I think you can kind of tell as well through our lyrics that like mental health and relationships and like personal growth and all that kind of stuff is like imbued in everything that we do. I mean, that's where we started, just even as friends, and we've been through a lot, you know, in that vein. And you know, so like it's just an effort of like putting our lives and our love of music into what we're doing now, and it just hasn't stopped since we started.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
mean,
he mentioned like, oh, go for it.
no, go for it. All you.
I was just gonna tell a funny story about the first single that we released.
Go for it.
So we wrote it kind of on accident, didn't think we'd finish it. We were like, hell yeah, we made a fucking song. Like, this is probably never gonna happen again. So let's throw a party. So we literally had a giant release party for our song. We rented a space. We had balloons with the song title. We had Mario Kart and a projector in the corner. We catered froyo. We invited way too many people. We like rented a space, and so we literally balled out for our song. And like, even if it never happened again, we were like, we fucking did it. We never thought we would do it. We're gonna do it up. And so we were all excited to release it, and we were holding it really tight, and we were trying not to show people. And then when I uploaded it for distribution a few days before the party, because we uploaded it super late, I accidentally released it a year into the past. And so as soon as I clicked submit, it posted to every single streaming platform in the entire universe. And so a couple hours later, we're looking at our phones and we're like, wait a second, this isn't supposed to be out yet. And so it kind of ruined the surprise, and we were ineligible to pitch for playlists, but we didn't really know what that meant all that well back then. But it was kind of a cluster, and the party was hilarious and awesome. And it's where we ended up meeting our drummer, and well, not meeting him, but planting that seed.
Right.
So it was fun. Like from the beginning, it's sort of been the attitude of like, we're just happy to be here. We didn't feel like we earned it or by any means. Like we're just happy that we did it and that we just keep doing it.
Caveat
for
to
sure.
that, for those that don't know us that well, celebrating a first release sounds normal, but I feel like us at that time, the idea of literally throwing a party for anything that we had done, that in and of itself was an achievement. Like to have a mindset of like, wait, we actually did something, let's celebrate it. Like coming out of that, like the disaster of 2020 and everything, like it was so hard to have a positive mindset. It was so hard to like, everything seems so volatile and like disastrous that like okay, you wrote a song, why celebrate? Like changing that mindset into like a positive thing was a victory for us.
Yeah,
I think that's
April
worth noting.
2022.
Yeah.
We were ready to party.
And I think that's one of those things, like obviously it was a conscious decision to do all that, but I think kind of to Ian's point, like subconsciously it's that shift of mindset that even if this is the only one that we've ever create and do anything with, like in our minds, at least now we've done something, like we can take that step forward.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, awesome. So you guys are based out of Chicago. Let's talk a little bit about the pandemic in Chicago, because talk about a shit show up there, right? I'm from Indiana, so we secondhand heard a lot of the news that was going on up there. But you guys had like crazy fucking lockdowns, the curfews, all sorts of weird shit going on. What was it like trying to just survive, really? Not even in the music creation, but just being able to survive the day-to-day life.
It was very stressful. I don't think we saw anyone but each other for the first, probably, this might sound bad, but honestly, probably for the first month or two. And then we finally found our little COVID bubble, and somehow, I mean, we were close, but we weren't so close with Ian that I would have expected to be in his little quarantine pod, but somehow we got Ian in our pod and it was awesome. And so we just kind of all stuck together out of necessity after that. I was like, well, we're the only people that we get to hang out with. And also making sure we saw our families as much as we could safely and things like that. But we weren't a band yet. We weren't really writing yet. Sawyer and I had decided to sign up for some online music classes. So we were like trying to learn how to write songs because everyone was being so creative in the pandemic. And we were like, we should probably do that too. And that definitely planted some seeds. Nothing really came out of it. We had this really sick emo moody cover of Amnesia by 5 Seconds of Summer that we made. And that was actually the first time I ever tracked vocals. And I had to have like 3 drinks before I put the microphone in my hand. I was so nervous. I was shaking. It was just me and Sawyer in the room. And I'm like, I can't do it. I'm too scared. Like, it was so foreign to me. And that feels like yesterday. But just, it was like a balance of like everything was being taken so seriously, but that gets so exhausting. So it's like, how do you take seriously what you need to take serious, and how do you let go of the rest, and how do you let go of things you can't control, and when is it okay to make the best of a situation, even if that makes you feel guilty to do or to say. I think that was something I was wrestling with a lot during the pandemic.
Yeah. Ian, anything to
Yeah.
add on that?
No,
Being
I
special and
definitely
adding
agree.
to the pod.
Yeah. I mean, well, so I'm like ridiculously extroverted, and so like I would have lost my mind if I had had to stay like only in my house, and I did for the first bit, because a lot of Courtney's family, who they were trying to see at the time, you know, had medical stuff that they wanted to really be careful about, and yeah, it was interesting. I mean, at the time, I mean, we both, I think, saw 2 different sides of the city, because they were living down on more on the south side in Pilsen, and I was up in basically Wrigleyville at the time. And to me, it was very strange, because Wrigleyville is like one of the most constantly active places in Chicago. If you haven't
Yeah.
been, like, it's right by where the Cubs play. It's also like Boys Town, like the gay neighborhood that never stops partying. And I say that with the most love.
Right.
They're basically the same area. And so all of a sudden there's like, like nobody in the street. You can see the little like things blowing in the wind, like a Western movie or whatever. Like, it was
Tumbleweeds.
so weird. It was a night and day difference. And it was, yeah, I don't know. That was kind of a shock, especially to somebody who kind of liked at the time that energy. Um, but I think, because of that, like I was itching to create and figure things out and all that stuff. Like, I delved into mental health stuff for the first time. I really started getting to know myself to try and prevent myself from like freaking out and all that kind of stuff. And that, I started learning tools there that I've been using ever since, and I don't know, the city, it was very interesting. I know, like you said, there's a lot of big stuff that happened on the news, and whether people agree or disagree with how it was handled. One of the things that I actually really loved about the city, and like I've come from like smaller towns and stuff, and like I know like my family has gone to grocery stores outside of Chicago, and like people want to get in fights on like, don't make me wear my mask or whatever.
Yeah.
For the most part, from what I saw in the city, whether they liked it or not, people kind of just got with the program, and we weren't fighting each other as much as we were just kind of getting through it, which was nice.
Yeah.
I did like that about the city, because it made it a lot easier to kind of focus on the things that actually matter, and wrestle with the things that are actually important to wrestle with, like what Courtney was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, whether you're pro mask or vax or any of that or not, like we don't have to get into the politics of it, but I think that's one of those things that Americans are incredibly ignorant towards, right? Like in Japanese culture, for example, even before the pandemic, like if someone in your family was sick, everybody wore a mask so that you didn't spread that illness to others out of respect and honor for the family and whatnot. And we get asked to do it and we're like, nope, fuck you, I'm not doing that. And it's like, but why?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Every man for themselves in this country.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I think
it's so bizarre.
one of the things that's always weird to me is like when you're standing up for your rights, I think you're always, and this applies to everything, you're standing up for your right to choose.
Right.
So you can choose to be a dick about it, or you can choose to be nice about it, but that choice is still yours. And you having the right actually makes you more culpable for like how you choose to act,
Yeah.
because it's your free
Yeah,
choice.
it's so
So
funny the hearing of straight white males talk about fighting for the right to choose. Treacherous territory. Treacherous territory.
I've been a
then
supporter,
there's some
so
context, right?
yeah.
Right. I mean,
Mhm.
then you get a little taste. Get a little taste.
Yeah. But I think, it's one of those things that it's because of the social standard that was in existence for so long. Your point, even as a joke, is very true, right? Like the second a straight white male, especially middle aged, I'm 38, like my opinion is dog shit, no matter if it's the right opinion or not.
Yep.
it's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's brutal. So let's talk a little
I
bit on the
respect your opinion.
I appreciate that. Let's talk a little bit about the mental health side. You guys do put it in your music. Obviously, you went through some fairly severe traumas. Talk about, Ian touched on like kind of having to build your toolkit through the pandemic of how do I process what I'm dealing with? And then especially to lose people that close to you, how do I, what can I do at this point?
Yeah, it was funny timing for me because I was for sure clinically depressed and had severe undiagnosed social anxiety for years before ever seeking treatment or help or realizing that maybe that was possible. I just thought I was plagued with being a snowflake that was unique and no one else had these problems, so no one else could fix them. So it was kind of my attitude, and there was a part of me that enjoyed that and made me feel different. But really, I was using that to grab onto because I was suffering. And so in January 2020, when our band broke up, we also lost like a majority of our friend group because that's who we started the band with, and so these
Yeah.
were other guys that we had played with in church band. They were our best friends, and we went through a lot before we kind of decided to part ways. And one of the members, not so caring or lovingly, suggested I get some help professionally for myself. And he was using it as like you're the problem in this type of thing. But I
Weaponizing it
wanted
against
to
you.
just exactly. And I thought maybe the best thing I could do was just say, you know what? I could use some help. Sure, like I'll get some help if that's gonna solve this. If we get to be friends, if you think let's do it. I'll try it. And so in January 2020 was when I had my first counseling appointment, my first therapy session ever. And so as like a prelude to the shit fest of my life that would happen in the next few months, I had just started therapy. And so if you've done therapy, you know that at the beginning there's a lot of like logistics and stuff. You have to work through some admin. So you're like talking about your family history and your medical history and how old you are and growing up. And you kind of have to get through all that shit before you can get to what is currently on your mind. And so by the time all of that happened, I had been through the admin stuff and was at the point where I had learned kind of the dialogue and like how to talk to a counselor and a therapist and how maybe this was going to help me. And let me tell you, I just thought it was the dumbest shit. I would sit in the car before my appointment with Sawyer and I'd be like, please don't make me go in. I don't want to do this. I don't think I ever was like excited to go. And then I was usually glad that I went, but sometimes I'd come into the car and be like, my counselor is such a freaking idiot. She doesn't know what she's talking about. Like she doesn't understand. And some of the stuff she said was just make me so mad. But with that, it's like we just decided it was something that you don't want to do. and maybe you're not even glad that you did, and you don't think you're learning anything, but then 6 weeks go by or even 6 months, and all of a sudden something will hit you from a therapy session that you learned about yourself, and you're like, damn, okay, I am learning stuff from this. And so when people ask what it's like, I say it's like taking a college level course on yourself, and you're learning like way too much about yourself and stuff that you never thought you needed to know or maybe wanted to know. And I'm like a very self-aware person. I was like, this bitch can't teach me nothing I already know about myself. And boy, was I wrong. So I think counseling definitely helped. And I had gone for a few months in 2020. And then when the pandemic hit, I sort of stopped. And then when my sister died, it was the last thing I wanted to do. But 2 weeks after she died, I scheduled a session and was like, I'm just going to force myself to go because I know this well enough. Like, it's going to help me. It's going to suck ass, but it's going to help me. And so just continuing to do that had been huge. And then I won't speak for them, but getting these two little bubbies into therapy was a bit like pulling teeth, at least for Sawyer, at first. But I think they've both sort of learned to love it. And I think sadly, when we get into fights, it could be a little bit of a like, oh, when was you started therapist? Sounds like you. It's been a while. You probably should talk to them about this, not me. But it's also like something that I'm very proud of all of us for stepping into and doing, because therapy was definitely a huge thing. And therapy is like what I think of similarly to medication, because I am medicated for depression and social anxiety, is that all of those things, medication, therapy, tools, it's like it's a doorway that appears and maybe didn't exist for you before, but now it's there and you can walk through it, but it's you that has to do it. And so therapy is great, but you got to put in some work too. And same with like medication. Like now it feels like there's a way out, but you still have to do the work to get through it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know, boys, what about you?
I know, like for me, I had some experience with therapy growing up because I was diagnosed with ADHD. I had to see a psychiatrist in order to have my medication prescribed. So at least on some regular basis, I was in counseling and talking with people who could make those decisions for me. But and a little bit in college. But what was funny is like even before I started regular therapy, early on in the pandemic, I started sort of a journey that was really like helped by Courtney and our whole friend group in getting to know myself. Not to go specifically deep into any specific tools, but there's this thing called the Enneagram, and that really helped me start understanding myself in some new ways, and like in ways that were hard to come to terms with. Like, to be clear, like that means recognizing the good and the bad, the stuff that you like, the stuff that you don't like, and even outside of therapy, that was important for me. Having somebody guide you through that process in ways can certainly also be helpful. But speaking for myself, one of the most frustrating things about it is like I'm a fixer. I like to like just, okay, what's the solution here? Let's just do it.
Yep, me
for
too.
the most part. And so like I want somebody to say like, was I an idiot there? Did I do the wrong thing? And therapists aren't there to say that.
Yeah.
They're there to kind of help you think about it and help you decide who you want to be and how you want to have handled things, and and all that kind of stuff. And they're there to make suggestions for sure, but it was never like a, can you just like, I just want somebody, what do I do next time so that this doesn't happen?
Yeah.
There's never like that clear answer. I have no problem usually like being candid with a therapist. I understand the boundaries of that relationship. I feel very free to talk about myself and whatever, and that's cool. But that only gets me so far.
Right.
If I can't, figure out how to take ownership, and maybe that sounds easy to some people, but it's not easy for me. So like that's a continual process for me. But I'm definitely very glad that I've been in that process. And what therapy's value to me has definitely changed quite a bit over time, depending on what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things like now that I'm just very grateful for the people in my life who were already doing it and could talk about it like a normal thing. I was never really worried about the stigma of it because, like I said, I was exposed to it as a young kid, but um, it's expensive and there's other things that people would like to be doing, you know, spending their time doing. And so
Oh
even
my
just from
gosh,
that
yeah.
perspective, like it's valuable. Like whether you think that there's a stigma or not, like it's funny. Like as a guitar player, one of my biggest pieces of advice to anybody starting the instrument for the first time is to get a stand for the thing because it is so funny how often you won't pick up a guitar because you're like, oh man, I gotta open the case.
Right.
I gotta pick it up and then I gotta put it away when it's done. Like it's like the act of implementing something new into your life, like starting therapy, it sucks for a lot of people, even if it's not like considered weird. It's like, I don't want to do that. I don't need to bother. Like just do it. Like, yeah, I'm grateful for people in my life to have like pushed me to do it
Yeah.
because it's been great.
Yeah. Try it and go in with as much skepticism as you want. Boy, will your mind be blown.
Well,
For
and
sure.
but like Courtney was saying though, like commit for like at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
level of skepticism is fine. Just give it some time. You got to get past the
Yeah.
get to know you phase and stuff. Like,
Yeah, for sure. And it's
Yeah,
funny. There's,
you won't like it.
Yeah. You will not like it at
no,
first.
no, I hated it when I started it. So I've been doing therapy for about a year now, and it's funny. I hear bits and pieces
Oh,
out of
yeah.
both of you that I'm like, yep, that's me too. You know, like super self-aware, definitely knew where I was or where I thought I was in life and everything. And then like Ian, I'm such a fixer. On a recent conversation with my therapist, we were talking about some previous burnt bridge relationships, and I'm such a fixer that I'm like, you know, I'm trying to do this and I'm trying to do that. And she goes, okay, Josh, who set the fire to the bridge? Was it you? And I was like, well, no, you know, like it really came from their side. And she goes, okay, then why are you responsible for fixing the bridge? And I'm like, oh shit. Like, what? Yeah, totally messed me up.
Damn.
Yeah.
Mic drop.
Yeah, it was brutal, but in the best sort of way, because now I've started evaluating those relationships and I'm like, yeah, no, it's not my responsibility. The door's open over here. You have to just come over, you know? So yeah, I think therapy is one of those things that like there's a dollar value assessed to it. So yes, you can say what it cost or whatever, but like it's an invaluable tool for anyone. I mean, it is so important.
Yeah, I don't know if this is a projection, but what you said resonated so hard with like what your therapist said totally messed you up. And it's like you sort of trade one thing for another. So I've been through a lot of issues with my friends with the band. And so I would lay in bed at night and think about what I could have said differently, what I could have done differently, what I could say tomorrow to maybe make it better. But then when I started talking to a therapist about it, then you're sitting in bed going, they set the fire to the bridge. It's not my job to fix it. You're just like repeating a different thing to yourself. It's still about the same thing. It doesn't make it go away, but it's like all of a sudden you're on a different side of it. You're looking at it from a different angle. And I'd rather go to bed with those thoughts versus the other ones. Not that either is easy to have and hold and carry, but it's much better. And you're actually, you know, you're like working through it.
Yeah, for
and
sure.
therapy is good. Yeah, like what they've been talking about, like external problems and like friendships. But for me, like it was really helpful for like my internal situation and like my past, like growing up the way I did, and like I was holding a lot of things in me that like therapy has helped, you know, bring out of me that I didn't even really know about.
Yeah.
Childhood trauma. Yeah, therapy was huge for us during the panty, and then for me and Soy, I think Ian too, distraction. And after my like going through grieving and stuff, distraction was huge. So we played a lot of Switch, a lot of Mario Kart, and a lot of Jackbox games on Zoom. We love a good game, love video games, love movies, and like I said, it could be hard because you feel guilty for like not thinking about things you think you should be thinking about. That sounded like a SpongeBob quote. But my counselor would always say like, I'd say, oh my gosh, I just can't focus on work. Like I played Mario Kart for 5 hours yesterday. Like, what's wrong with me? I'm almost 30. Like, I shouldn't be doing this. And she'd be like, distraction is a coping mechanism, and right now you need to cope, and that's healthy, and that's a good thing. And so I'd sit there with my controller with Mario Kart and be like, this is good for me. And it was. And it's like hard for me to think that way, but I think that was huge, at least for me personally. And then it was fun to be able to play with these.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've always, so I'm 38, like I said, and depression has been in my life as long as I can remember. I literally just earlier this year got my actual diagnosis on it. I knew what it was going to be, but when she still read the results to me after doing the DSM and all that, I'm like, okay, that's heavy. Like, let's figure out how to unpack all this now. But it's funny because, you know, you mentioned distraction, and I'm the same way. I'm like, I start looking at stuff, and it's because of my history and whatnot. I'm like, oh, I'm doing these things as a distraction, playing video games, or I'll just sink myself into doom scrolling through Spotify or YouTube, you know, discovering music. And then 5, 6, 7 hours goes by, and I'm like, I've done nothing productive. What the fuck has you know what I mean? Like, and then I start panicking a little bit, and I'm like, no, I need it today. Tomorrow's a new day. I'll do everything else tomorrow.
Yes.
It's all
100%.
it's all a balance though, because like, you know,
Right.
I said, like, when I started getting to know myself, I had accept the good and the bad. One of the first things that I did realize about myself is that I am a distraction king. I try and keep everything positive always, and I'm really good at it. And that convicted me really hard though. So I'm like, oh man, that's horrible. I'm avoiding all of my issues and stuff. And so like my first reaction to that was like, okay, I need to take everything seriously. And like oh man, that sucked for so long. And I had to relearn that, like, wait a minute.
Yes, it does.
It's good though. Like, it's good to cope. Just also make sure that you're processing things in ways that aren't gonna like delay or prolong the things that are causing you difficulty or pain. Like, that's the real key. Like, cope and also protect your future self at the same time. Like, it's this balance of like how do you take care of yourself now, and how do you take care of yourself sometime in the future.
Right. Yeah. I think too, the thing is, you know, we talk about distractions, and music is obviously that for all of us, right? Like, how many times have we just
100%.
sat in a dark fucking room, or sat in the shower with songs playing because we need to cope?
Oh yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, you know, as you guys are working through and decide that music is the thing that we're going to push for. When did, or how did that affect that type of coping for you as you started writing songs?
That's such an interesting question. I think all
I'll
our history of
start,
music
I
is so
think.
different.
Yeah, let me start
for it.
because Courtney's gonna have a more interesting answer.
You were just shredding and it was cool.
So yeah, like for me,
Yeah.
for me, my music taste has always been there. Like my whole life has been music. And I was surrounded by a musical family and all that kind of stuff. I've learned all sorts of different instruments growing up. I've had some primary ones. Most of them I wouldn't care to admit that, like, I wouldn't identify myself as a player of most of those instruments, but
Are you a clarinet boy?
no, I was a trumpet boy.
Okay.
Yeah. Like trumpet to guitar.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's actually a fair switch. If you get into like the personalities of musicians and all that kind of stuff, like I loved to do when I was growing up, it is kind of funny to look at. But it was one of those things, like I picked up guitar mainly because like trumpet was really easy and fun to do in school because they facilitated that. But like I said, like, and I played it through college, but in college I was like realizing, wait a minute, once I graduate, it's going to be hard to do music daily with the trumpet. And so I was like, let's do guitar. It's
Fuck your
easy
neighbors.
and everybody has one.
In
Yeah. Yeah.
Chicago,
Well, yeah. No, seriously. And so, you know, so I picked up guitar and it was just like it was a utility at that point. Like, yep, I want to keep music in my life. Let's figure out a easy way to do that. But I really fell in love with it. And like by the time that we were playing in church together, like I was still kind of new. They actually had to convince me to play on stage because I was nervous. But like then fast forward and around the time that
drama.
well, yeah. In fact, you know, around the time though that we were starting to maybe talk about like creating our own stuff, like at that point though, I've already had years and years and years of knowing that like this was something that I was going to do for myself in my bedroom, regardless of where it went. It only really became what it is now because of them.
Right.
And it is both, music means what it has always meant to me, but this is also a way for it to mean new things and more things. So I would have done it anyway. Courtney's got a more interesting answer.
Is that your segue?
Yeah, I'm passing the ball.
Okay, great. Yeah, so growing up, I feel like every kid, or maybe not, maybe this is too honest, but like most children like pretend to be a singer and like to sing in the car or like do karaoke, and they have their favorite bands, and they I feel like that's pretty normal, and most people do like the theater thing or like music in school or choir and things like that. So I just thought it was regular. Obviously, I loved singing. My AIM screen name was Love to Sing 345, like way back in the day.
Yeah.
But I just thought that's like what people like everyone likes to sing, of course. And so I didn't really think about it. And my older sister, the one that passed, was a singer, and she was an amazing singer, and she just had like the aura too. Like you just met her, and like she exuded that energy. And so it's like, you know what? Older sister, younger sister dynamic. Like I don't want that competition in my life. I will just sit here in her shadow and ask. It was like my younger sister, middle child, emo, moody mentality. And so she definitely did the singing thing far after I had quit. I probably quit at the age of like, I did choir in school up until freshman year of high school, but that was it. And it was like pulling teeth to get me to do it. So like I had pretty much ditched the music thing until I think freshman year of high school is when I picked up drums at church. So wasn't really singing. Didn't want to play drums. I really didn't want to do any of it. I was like uber insecure. I had massive stage fright. I just did, yeah, I did not want it. I cried when my parents signed me up for drum lessons. So I was like, please don't make me do it. I really don't want to go. And literally the teacher would come to our house, but it was only half an hour. Like looking back, I'm like, oh, suck it up. But I really did not want to do it. But I loved music. I come from a large family. There's 7 children, and then we have my parents, and then we had a dog, but he doesn't really count because he was tiny. But my dad had some pretty wacky rules growing up, and like don't get me wrong, I've had an awesome time growing up in that house, but it was insanity. And so one of the rules was no headphones. No headphones in the house, no headphones on road trips. If we were on an airplane together, no headphones. When you did your homework, you had to be at the kitchen table. You couldn't be in your room. The only time you had a door closed and locked was if you were taking a shit or a shower. That was the only time you were allowed to close the door and lock it. Otherwise, like, you could not be alone. And all I wanted to do was be alone. And so in middle school, my best friend moved to Nebraska. And that was like the end of my world as I knew it. Everything was crumbling down. And like we already went to different schools, which was hard enough. And like all of a sudden she was leaving me. I was going to 6th grade. She was going to 7th grade. And so for my birthday that year, her parents got me an iPod Nano. It was purple, and we named him Perry. And then she had an iPod, my best friend, it was purple, it was an iPod Nano, and his name was Terry, and they were gay, and they were twins. And that was like, I don't know, that's like our way of, instead of like friendship necklaces or something, like we had purple iPods, and they were gay twin brothers named Perry and Terry. And I didn't have my own iTunes, I had way too many siblings for that shit, so I had to just download whatever my older brother and older sister had, because they were the king and queen of the iTunes account and the LimeWire and all that stuff. So I just downloaded all their stuff. And when my dad wasn't home yet, when I got home from school, I'd go upstairs and put my headphones in, and I would blast Evanescence. That was my shit. And I would like sing My Immortal and stare out the window, and like, just, I had no idea what it means. I still don't know what some of those songs are about. And it just like, it wasn't, I didn't even care like what she was saying. It made me feel something. And I got really into the Rocket Summer, if you know who that is.
Yes. Bryce is amazing.
And I loved, he like if I ever saw him in concert, the second he uttered a note, like I was in a puddle of tears. And like I wasn't usually showing emotion like that in public. And so it was always crazy. But the music just really touched me, and like Bryce would sing about these things that I didn't know anyone else was thinking. And I just was like, how is there someone out there who feels the same way? And how is it this like super hot angel voice, like pop punk singer dude that's like super talented? I'm like, if he feels that, like that makes me feel so much better. And so I always connected with music. I was connected with like the pop punk genre and stuff like that. But I mainly just played drums at church because I had to. I didn't really think it was going to be a thing. I sort of tried to make it a thing, but it was like self-protective to not try, because if I tried really hard and still wasn't good at it, then I totally suck. But if I'm not good, it's like, oh, I never practiced, like whatever. Like I was just kind of that person that was like, nah. So like never really practiced. I didn't really care, and that was like a protection mechanism out of being a perfectionist. And so I don't know, like I said, when I was a kid, I'd be like, sure, I want to be a singer, yeah, but like everyone does. That totally changed once I started to develop insecurities and things like that. And so I never, ever thought I would be doing this. And then when I got to college and met Sawyer, that was around the time my sister started to really get sick. She struggled with bipolar. We would later learn, way too late, but she started to get really, really sick, and she was fiercely battling addiction that had been kept secret for a long time. And so it all kind of like came out at once and was a lot. And like she used to sing at church. She used to sing in front of people all the time, do recitals. Like I said, she had the most beautiful voice, and like she was amazing at it. My brother would drum, and they were like the it people of like the worship band. But once she got sick, all of that went to shit. And once she started drinking, all of that was gone. And the only way we would ever get to hear her sing is when she would go in her room with her acoustic guitar and like record a YouTube video. And so she would post YouTube covers, and like she did that until the month that she died. Like she was still doing YouTube covers, self-teaching herself the guitar, like singing. It just was always something that totally tethered her to the earth and tethered her to herself, and was like a way that she was able to express how she was feeling. And like I said, any music I had was from her and from my older brother, and like that was who I learned from and who I saw playing and singing. And so I think it was always like my dream / everyone else's expectation that she would be the singer, and like she would go on American Idol and she would win and she would be in a band, and maybe we'll start a family band and we're like the Partridge Family. And everyone on the outside like totally thought she was going to be a celebrity, and I mean we did too. But once she got sick and started battling her addiction, like we saw a different side of it that no one else saw. We were very private about it at the time. Now we're very open, but no one really knew. And so they would always be like, oh, why doesn't your sister sing anymore? She was so good. And I would just say, oh, like she's so busy after college and stuff like that. And so I think when she passed away, there were like two ways I could go. Like, okay, well, she was the singer. I'm going to leave that for her. That will always be her. But I like to think that the reason I was able to start writing in 2021 is like that's from her, and that's what she left with me when she went. And so if she can't be here to do it, like somebody's got to do it. And if that's what tethered her, like then maybe that'll tether me to her. And we both loved these artists that made us feel less alone. And if I can do that for someone in like a way that she would have, then that's huge to me. And so I like to think that she left that with me, and that I'm sort of carrying on her voice for her. So like if you would have told me 2 years ago that I'd be singing on stage in front of anyone, I would have laughed my ass off. Like that is the most ridiculous and ludicrous statement in the entire universe. That's like saying pigs are gonna fly. Like when Ian met me, when Sawyer met me, just a bundle of insecurity, undiagnosed mental illness, living with my sister who was an addict and having, like bipolar breakdowns and things. Like I just was not, I would have laughed so hard. It would have brought a big smile to my face. And so that's kind of where I'm at now, is like anytime I step on a stage and speak into a microphone, I'm like, I cannot believe I'm doing this right now. This is the most insane thing ever. But that's just sort of how I'm trying to carry on my sister's legacy in a way, and I like to think she sort of gifted me with that when she left.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, you know, a couple things I want to touch on. Number one, I think what you said there towards the end is exactly the pop punk ethos, right? Like being able to create art or songs or whatever, you know, word you want to associate with it that helps other people understand that they're not the only ones battling something has always been the pop punk side of stuff. And I think it's funny because like a lot of people that are outside of this genre or older and looking into this genre don't associate that. They just see it as, you know, oh, it's these whiny sad boys or it's, you know, whatever. And it's like,
Yes.
yeah, but we're all whiny sad boys. You know what I mean? Like we've all been through breakups. We've all dealt with all this sort of stuff. Like these, you know, I've said it a ton on this podcast and I've, you know, had this conversation with friends and family before. You know, growing up, I was very much that kid listening to metal, pop punk, whatever. And family would hear it and why do you listen to all this angry music or all this sad music or blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, because I understand what they're saying. Like for me, I've lived what they're living, you know, like that's pushing me forward. So it is really cool to hear you kind of associate that and know that, you know, not that there's like an obligation, a self-imposed obligation, right? Like I know that this is what this means to people, so I'm going to do it. The other thing I wanted to touch on was I had to look up the dates or which album it was, but going back to Bryce Avery, this is how incredibly powerful he was in the mid 2000s when Do You Feel came out in 2007. The alternative press website crashed because they were doing an AMA with him.
Yeah.
And they had to rebuild the entire fucking website in 2010 and launched a whole new one where the founder, Mike, in his press release is like, Bryce, I dare you to try to fucking break it again.
Oh my God. That is the most amazing story I've ever heard. God, I love him so much.
Yeah, he's so fucking incredible. And like, you know, he's one of those people that him and like Andrew McMahon both, y'all have way too much fucking talent, right? Like The Rocket Summer, and then you've got Andrew McMahon / Jack's Mannequin / you know, whatever all his, you know, bands were. And it's like, how the fuck can you be this incredibly talented? Like Andrew McMahon is so talented that you've got these alternate bands that are in different genres because you're so good you don't even have to just stay in your own genre.
Oh yeah,
mind-blowing. So for you guys, as you're pushing forward here, again, like I said at the beginning, you know, my TikTok algorithm is all about you guys, so something you're doing is working. What's it like starting to see this traction and people responding to the music? And you know, obviously you're seeing the comments because you're stitching the videos and stuff, but like what's it like going from, well, we did one thing, you know, we put out one song that was good enough, that's all we cared about, to holy shit, people care about what I'm saying?
Oh, it could not have come at a more perfect time with a more perfect song. Like I could not be happier that the TikTok to catch was One More Night, because this is the song that encapsulates that whole pop punk ethos, that articulates it in the best way I know how. And when I perform it live, this is what I share about my sister, and I talk a lot about it from stage. And every time before I do it, question whether you should do it. You should do it anyway. And I did because people had me and people tell me, try to tell me things like
Courtney, your audio is cutting out. Hang on. It just got real quiet, right, Ian?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. I was starting to notice it too.
Stop talking.
All good.
Maybe
All good.
But anyway, this song in particular, TikTok in the studio while we were working on it, and that's the TikTok that took. Is my audio fucked again?
Ian, was it okay for you? I caught most of it.
Yeah, almost all of it was there. I'm muting myself, by the way, just in case that's causing anything.
Yeah,
Should I take the AirPods?
Yeah.
Let's try this. Maybe this will be better.
Yeah, that's fine.
Great. So the song that
One more.
Oh, it just did it again. Hang on. It could have been with Sawyer's closing out though, when he was closing his AirPods. Okay, go again. Courtney.
Okay,
go, Courtney.
No, it's all good. I don't know what's going on. Ian.
Oh, should I,
Okay.
did you say I can
We're-
talk in the meantime?
Yeah, I think while they're playing with what audio setup they're using.
Cool. Yeah, well, I think, yeah, what she was sort of getting to is like we're sitting in a song right now that's gonna be coming out on the 17th, that it's a really big deal, and it's a really honest song called One More Night, and like it is kind of crazy that that's the one that took off, because we just like rarely, I think, posted any unreleased stuff, and if so, it was like a, hey, should we turn this into a thing? And like it kind of blew up and was like, wait, where is this? Can we want to listen now? And which was amazing. And so we actually kind of worked with our producer, like, hey, can we speed this up? Let's make it, let's put it out now. And it's been huge. Like the TikTok and social media side of things is kind of crazy and foreign to me. And it's the part that I struggle to learn and catch up with, as like the person that just wants to like make music, and that's all that I really care about. And like Sawyer and Courtney both like have like a lot of experience with content production, and like Courtney does like social media professionally. And so like they get it, and that's good and bad, because when you have an idea of how things do work, like a really real idea of how things do work, when you want to just blow up and be a famous band and stuff, you know how much is in the way of that.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I think for it to have started happening on a song that means so much to us is really cool. And it's exciting to see where it goes. And I'll see if they can
Yeah.
add to
see if
that.
their audio is good now.
I'm gonna break my computer in half if this doesn't work.
It sounds good so far.
I might put my foot in my mouth when I say this, but like Ian said, he loves music and he wants to do music, and he's always enjoyed doing music. I am not the same way. I don't get the same fulfillment from it. That's not the part of the process that lights me up. And I feel like that's maybe a hot take. Like most people, when they're doing their Grammy speech or when they're being interviewed, they're like showing the home video footage of when they were 4 years old and saying like, I knew I never wanted to be anything different, and this was always what I was pushing towards. Like, nope. We just started doing this 2 years ago. And so I think I'm very impatient, so I'm happy that it happened so fast. But like the goal for me has always been to make people feel heard and less alone and considered. And especially after my sister died, like I had my own struggles before that. And the song One More Night like is legitimately about committing to staying alive for one more night, because you honestly don't know if you can or you want to or you will. And that was a place I was in for so long. And I just never saw a way out of it. And that was before the pandemic and before my sister died. And just like now I'm not only okay with going to sleep at night for another night, but I'm excited for next week because we have a song coming out. And like before, I didn't look forward to anything. Like if I thought about next week, instant panic attack. I could not. And so it's just like,
Well, and not to
personally, to
mention
have
even being around, like excited by a song. Not to mention even being excited by a song that you've done. Like that's not always been a thing. And now you're looking forward to this release.
yeah, it's a lot of internal battles. And like we it's expensive to be in a band. It takes a lot of time. I have a very corporate 9-to-5 job that takes up a lot of my life. Ian has a corporate job. Sawyer's a freelancer. Like we're all busy. It's mentally exhausting. Being on stage is very vulnerable. Families have a lot of opinions, and like we're actually writing a new song sort of about this, but like it used to be cool to be in a band no matter what. Like if you were the shittiest band playing in your basement, you were still like a fucking god. At least that's how it was for me. Like the kids that were in bands were so sick. Now maybe it's because we're old or whatever, but like in today's day and age, if you're in a band just for funsies and you're not a celebrity, like why is it like embarrassing? Like those people aren't
Yeah.
cool anymore. They're like annoying, trying to like, hey, come to my show, like come see my band. It's like, yeah, okay, sure. Like it's kind of embarrassing. It kind of lost that touch. And so it's hard. And you're posting on TikTok, you're posting your music, nobody cares, you're getting 200 views, and you think nobody hears you. And so I think, I mean, I would have had it be any song, obviously, but I couldn't have picked a better one. Like I'm so fucking happy. And the comments that we get, I read every single one. I respond to every single one. I pin them all the time. I'm starting an Excel sheet with all these people's handles so we can keep in touch. We're designing merch for the song. We're making stickers. Like if it's just so crazy that this song with this message, like to have people resonate. My sister actually housed us in LA when we were working on it, and she was asking each of us, okay, so like what's your goal with the band? And Ian was like, I would love to do it full time, be able to quit my job. I think Sawyer said the same thing. And I was like, honestly, I just want people to hear my music, like a lot of people to hear my music, and for it to make them feel less alone. And I was like, that sort of just happened. And like, I think I hit my goal. And like, that doesn't mean I'm going to stop or that I'm
Right.
like, wow, this feels great. I'm done. Awesome. Like it's still hard. The song still has to come out. All these people have to actually listen from TikTok and kind of follow through on their piece. Right. But I had this moment of like pure rest, which has maybe never happened to me before, of just like, that was my goal. And like like we did it. And it was with this song, and people hear it and they care and they feel less alone. And it's not even out yet. So like my vision for the future is like that it just keeps going and going and going for that purpose. Like I said, I love making music. I do. And I love being on stage. I love performing. But the making of the music, it is a part of it for me, but it is not the part. The part is at the merch table when someone cries and hugs me and says, thank you so much for sharing. I was going to go home tonight and didn't know if I could make it through. And I promised you I would. And so I will. I'm going to be here tomorrow. And like, we're all crying in the girls' bathroom and hanging out. Like that's for me, that's what does it. And so the more that this song reaches people, the more that TikToks reach people, like the more moments like that can happen in real life, face to face. So that's really what I want to do with it. So just, it's like an indescribable feeling to read through those comments on TikTok and to have it have been this song that got there.
Yeah. And I think, something I've said to a lot of bands, and virtually every single one has agreed, like, there's obviously different measures of success, right? We live in a very fucking capitalistic world. Money is king. But realistically, when you're an artist and creating art, like the ultimate reward is someone resonating with your art and saying, this made me feel something. So, like, sure, don't get me wrong, we all want millions of dollars, right? Like that's just life. But at the end of the day, like you said, Courtney, like to just be able to put out music and have people reach out and be like, thank you for this matters, it's like, okay, I don't need that fucking paycheck anymore, I just needed to hear that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny because like I think the way that you said that really resonated with me too. Like I want people to resonate with me too, but my main language is music. And so like I get a lot of fulfillment out of writing something that Courtney and Sawyer want to continue with.
Right.
Like one of the best feelings I had recently was like writing something, and Courtney was like, I'm tearing up listening to what you wrote. Cause like we might be working on something a little less high energy, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, it's like, oh man, that feels really great for me. But like the torch gets picked up and brought so much further when lyrics and so much intention is added that I don't bring to it. Like I've done my piece so that she can do hers, but that same fulfillment is there.
Yeah, well, and I think, it's music is a universal language, right? Like obviously we would love to understand the words of every song, but you can go listen to a Korean band, whatever, a Mexican or Latino artist, whatever. If the music hits, the music hits. It doesn't matter that I don't understand the words.
100%.
Every part of it is so important, and somehow the three of us, I feel like, fit into the most opposite pockets of each other that comes together to make, like, if we were all one human, they would be like, that's like Bryce Avery. Like they'd be able to do it. They could produce, they could do the performing, they could make the music, they could play the instruments. Like we all have a piece of it, and like we couldn't do it without one of those. And that's sort of a message of our band too, is like you are a piece of that in this world, you are a piece of that in your family, in this friend group, in this new fan base maybe that we have. Whoa, if we have that. But like just being an important and critical piece of that just by being who you are. Like there is a lot we would change about each other, that's for damn sure, but I am sure glad that we are the way we are, because that's what makes it all work, and it's like kind of perfect in a crazy way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the Venn diagram, right? Like we're all three
100%.
separate things, but where we overlap, we are definitely maybe.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
100%. Like my top artist for the last 5 years has been John Mayer. I've like had Chicago on repeat for the last it's so funny that I'm now in a pop punk band that I love. Like, but everybody has that
It is
piece, and it's gonna happen out of nowhere, right? You got to make it through that one more night to like preach a little bit, to figure out where your place is, you know. And sometimes your places change, but like that's been like one of the weirdest trips, is like figuring out how to work with each other, and how to be a part of like something bigger and stuff too. It's like it's been almost unexpected the entire time.
Yeah, and you just have to do it too. Like you just have to force yourself to do it and enjoy it. I think that's like I wanted to just be a part of a band, and I just wanted to try it. And I would have looked back if I didn't do it, and would have been like super sad that I didn't do it. So I was like, I just have to try it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, exactly. It's like that first show we played, we were all like shaking and probably sounded horrible, but like we hit that last note and we were just like, we fucking did it. Like you would have thought we won the Super Bowl. We played in like a shitty regional bar for like 20 people, and we were like, oh my God, like we're fucking rock stars, bro. Like we did that shit.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
The Super Bowl doesn't happen in Chicago. We all know that, right?
Yeah, no.
Dude,
I had to make that dig. Sorry. No, I forget the artist that I was talking to because it's been a while back, but you know, something that Sawyer just said is like, you know, looking back and having that regret. He was putting out an album, and first album and all that, and he said, like, I don't care if it flops. I just wanted to put this out, have it exist in the world, so that my future kids can look at it and go, oh, my dad did accomplish something.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really, yeah, it was one of those like, damn, dude, like we're talking about your rock album and now you're hitting everybody in the fields with your future kids.
Yeah, well, and
that's
that
like
resonates with
this.
me because it's like when I struggle with perfectionism or not wanting to do something, like there will be a time where you maybe can't do it. Like my sister and I would always, she would always say, let's record a YouTube cover together, please. Like it's not that scary. Like it's fine. No one's even gonna see it. Like let's start a family band. Let's do it. And like in my head, I would always be like, yeah, like let's do it. Sure, like later. Like not right now. I'm busy. I have this job. I'm in college. I'm graduating. You're an alcoholic. I don't want to talk to you. I'm mad at you. All this, like whatever comes with that. But she would ask me constantly, and I would constantly be like, yeah, sure, like we will. And then now we won't. And we never did, and we won't. And she's gone, and I can't. And so it's like I learned the hard way that like, and being in a band, it's like we don't know what's gonna happen. Ian could move away. One of us could pass. Like to not to get morbid about it, but sort of to get morbid about it is like. If I could go back, I would make that dumb YouTube video with my sister, no matter how fucking mad I was at her or whatever. And like with these two goofballs here, it's like when we get pissed at each other, that's the mentality, is like we are all on the same team. We all are definitely maybe. It takes all of us to make this work, and we can do it right now. Like let's keep doing it for as long as we can, because there may be a point where we can't. I mean, you know, physical bodies fail and mental health waivers and pandemics hit. And I think we just got to this point where it was like in the pandemic, no one could do anything. And now that we can do things, we're like, let's fucking do it. And I am never again making one more goddamn excuse. I'm just gonna do it, and I'm gonna figure it out. And something my therapist taught me, which got me through our first few performances, I'm telling you, it would have been a big fat joke to say I'd be on any sort of stage just a couple years ago, but I would talk with her and I'd say, well, I'm so afraid to be on stage. And she's like, okay, well, what's the worst thing that's gonna happen? I'm like, okay, well, like my voice shakes and my hands shake. she's like, okay, so like if you were in the audience and you saw someone up there and their hands were shaking and their voice was shaking, like what would you think? And I'd be like, honestly, I'd be like, that's really fucking cool that they're still doing it, and like they're nervous and I get that. And so I'd be like, yeah, same. And then she was like, okay, so let your hands shake. Like if that's the worst thing that happens, like when you get off the stage and look back at it, like odds are you're not just going to be focusing on your hands shaking. And I wasn't. Like I said, we hit that last beat and it was like the Cubs won the World Series again. I mean, it was like such a celebration. And so it's like imagining the worst case scenario and then saying, okay, what if that did happen? Then what? And it's like normally it's all right, you're going to be okay and you're going to figure it out. And like, yeah, I don't want to embarrass myself on stage, I don't want my hands to shake, but I'm sure as hell glad I went up there even though my hands shook, because I would have regretted not doing it. And like if that's the worst that happened, let's call it a win.
Yeah. And actually what you were talking about too, about like just making the YouTube video, like the cool thing about art and like specifically music, like it can be as simple as you want it to be. Like music doesn't have to be super complicated. And that's like something that I realized, like I never made music because I was like, oh, it's just super complicated. But then like, it just hit me. I was like, oh, it can be super simple and we can just get it done. So I think that's something cool about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so approachable. Like I feel like it's really easy to be practical in the name of self-protection, you know, and you'd be like, oh, but there's better things for me to do, or like there's more productive things for me to do, yada yada. But like I think everybody has an artistic side, no matter who you are, and like you need to nurture that side of you. And there's so many ways to do it, but like just figure it out, because like, you know, like that whole process of therapy, like how do you take care of yourself now? How do you take care of yourself in the future? I feel like nurturing the like the artistic side of yourself does both.
Yeah.
So like it's important, you know, figure it
Yeah.
out. Don't deny that that like that part of you. And like I think music especially, I don't know, this is just my lens, I guess, so I shouldn't speak for other types of art. But I do see a lot of gatekeeping. And that's I came out of like I played jazz trumpet. Like if you want to find
One of the
gatekeeping in
most
music, that's where to look.
Right.
But you know, like it can happen, you know, and it like you know, I've had people say to me like, wait a minute, so you went from jazz to like pop punk? Like how do you feel about that musically? With the implication that like somehow it's simpler or like whatever.
It's not
But
as
like
refined or whatever. Yeah.
or it's like I don't
Yeah.
know, like the idea that like something has to have a certain number of extensions in a chord, like in order to have value or whatever. Like I, the thing that I think is really beautiful in art is that everything can and should have purpose the better you get at it. So it's not what, it's why. Why aren't there extensions? And it can be like you can dig into that as deep as you want to, like just to be nerdy about it. Okay, you're using gain and you're trying to add a million notes, you're not going to hear a single one of them. So like
Right.
why, you know, like it's practical, but it's also like where are you trying to lead the focus of the listener? How are you trying to light them up? How are you trying to pull them? Like everything can have intention. But you know, that's a depth to be explored in time, and you just gotta wade in, like get your feet wet and start. Like, yeah, I don't think there should be any sort of gatekeeping about it. And it's easy to project that onto things like you know, your own insecurities on like onto it and turn your own reasons of why you know, are scared to do it into like being weird and protective about it in front of other people. But like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this, but like
It-
just nurture that artistic side, because you don't know like when you won't have the option to. And I think that you're probably if you haven't, you're underestimating the impact that it can have. It's been a huge part
Yeah.
of
And
therapy. My therapist has been like, you need to pick up a guitar, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's real.
I think also helping other people figure out how to do that is something that we've been, and these guys in particular have been especially good at, which is really special and I feel like kind of unique to our band. It can be pretty competitive in the space and like Ian said, pretty gatekeepy, and music is vulnerable, and then it comes with a lot of ego, and you're sharing a lot when you play something and when you sing something, and it's hard to do. Music's not easy, but it can be simple and it can be approachable. And so we share the stage with a lot of our friends when we play live. We have like up to like 7 people up there with us sometimes, just because we want to bring everybody with us. And so sometimes, you know, it's a lot of variables, and that's a lot of people that have to learn parts. And so it doesn't always sound perfect, but it always comes out better because of everyone that was a part of it. And so when we were in church band, there was like a women's worship night, and I was playing the drums, and we had filled every single slot with a female musician besides bass. And we're like, what the fuck are we going to do? The event's in a week. We don't have a bass player. We're going to have one rehearsal. Like, Sawyer, you're gonna have to put on a wig and like a dress and pretend. And like, I was like, no, you know what? No. And so we were looking around the room, and our friend Madison, at the time was like the one other female in the group. And all of a sudden, at the same time, we all look at her, and she's like, what? And we're like, you want to learn to play the bass? She's like, okay. And so then that was like a Wednesday. The next Wednesday, she's on stage in front of 250 women ripping the bass for a set of like secular songs and worship songs. And like, then she never put the bass down. I mean, she still plays. She played for years after that. She joined the worship band. She has played on stage with us. And like, it was just, again, with her, like if you had told her 2 years ago, like you're gonna be playing the bass in a pop punk band on stage in front of humans, she would have been like, that's hilarious. But it's just like, why not? Like, okay, sure, if you're saying I could do it, like I'll try it. What's the, like, even if I fail or mess up, like at least I went for it. And so that's kind of like the attitude we have too, is like, let's just bring people with us, and we know what it's done for us, and we want to kind of extend that out as well.
Yeah. Well, and that's the, again, the pop punk ethos, right? Like, I know what this has done for me. I'm going to build a community that sees that value as well. So no, that's awesome. And it's funny because I used to play bass when I was in high school. And it was one of those, I knew I wanted to be in band and all that, but I'd never touched any instrument seriously before, and was talking to the band director, and he's like, can you count to 4? I said, yeah. He goes, cool. You're going to go learn how to play bass. And I'm like, oh, okay. And that's really all it took, was learning the count. And I'm like, oh, I can at least groove in a 4 count, right, and be okay. Like, it's fine.
That could take you far as a bass player. That some people that can't do all the right notes, it don't matter what they're hitting, because they're not hitting it at the right spot. So yeah, exactly. We're all like obsessed with the bass. We used to fight over who got to play it in the church band, because it's so much fun.
It really is, especially when you kind of do the jazz inspired version of it, where it's, as long as it feels right, I'm going with it. It's good.
We love that. If you mess up, make the mistake again, so people think you did it on purpose.
My band director told me, because I was in marching band as well, and he was like, I don't care if you miss the note, just do it confidently. If you make it look like you meant to do that, it's fine. Everything will be okay. Yeah,
same with being a drummer. And that's like why I struggled so much, was like, but I'm not confident. Like, I can't, but like, that's really the only way you're going to sound bad. And that's sort of like the same thing with performing too, is like, if you mess up confidently, normally like it'll work out. At one of our last shows, things were going so well, and I was so pumped about it. And like, as soon as I had that thought, like clockwork, boom, I look over and Ian broke a string. And I'm like, oh my God, I had to like go all the way in the back and like try to source a new guitar, and like had to retune and replug in and remix all of his stuff. And like, as soon as I had the thought of like, wow, this is going really smooth, like something went awry. But then I had the chance to like just talk with the people that were in the room with me. And when Ian was finally ready and we were cueing the next song, I was like, I feel so much closer to you all now. And I really did. Like, we just got to talk and hang out. And I think it served the set in a way that was better. And like, it definitely wasn't the most polished of moments for us, but it worked out. And we were just confident about it. Like, well, Ian's gonna go grab a guitar, so we're gonna chat for a bit, friends. Like, let's get into it. And just leaning into it instead of letting that sort of derail things or defeat you, which is really easy for me to do that. So that in and of itself speaks to how far we've come as a band. But it ended up being fine. Nobody died because Ian broke a string and we had to talk for an extra 2 minutes. The show was not ruined. It was actually maybe better for it. So
Yeah, I think it's one of those things that, you know, people have that misconception that it has to be perfect every time you play it. But like, especially in live music, I don't want it to be fucking perfect every time. Like, I want my experience with that song to be unique every time I go see it. So I think it's one of those when you, and it's a super hard thing to do, but when you let go of that mindset that, oh shit, you know, Ian's drop tuned still for some fucking reason, like, oh well, run it. Let's
all the time. All the time.
yeah. So, you know, it happens, Ian. It's fine. I don't even know why I assumed you were drop tuned, but I knew that you were.
Well, you know, if there's one thing that I will repeat, it's know thyself. And so it's not preventing, like, I know enough to know that it will happen. So get good in drop D. If you're going to change tunings, learn drop D so that you can play the next song in drop D. Yeah. If you have to. It's funny, but like, you know yourself. It pays dividends.
It's funny when you don't realize it until you're watching the videos later and you're like, why does this not sound right? And like, oh my God, Brent is in the wrong tuning. Like, what? How did no one know?
That's
like,
yeah. We've all done it. We've all done it.
Awesome. So as we kind of transition to the end here, I refuse to think of better ending questions. So I bought this game called Hot Takes that doesn't want to show up. It blurs it out for whatever reason. So we're just going to do a couple of these real quick.
Oh, sweet.
Well, like I think, no, it's because of the blur filter on Zoom. So it's fine. But we're going to do a couple of these real quick. So the first one for you guys is that superstitions are real.
I'm not going to take the chance. Yeah, I'll give it the time of day.
My gut is yes, because it's like placebo effect. If it's gonna, you're gonna sort of manifest that shit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I'm a huge Office fan, so the Michael Scott quote comes to mind that I'm not superstitious, I'm a little stitious, because like Ian said, like, why take the chance?
Yep.
If every 100%. Time I've put my left shoe on first, I've tripped, then I'm not fucking putting my left shoe on first. Like, duh.
Oh.
Yep.
Not worth it.
Yeah. The next one is, I think, hilarious. Peeing in pools is gross.
No, it dissolves in 6 seconds.
Yes, it's
how do you
gross.
We just went through this as a band. It was a
we literally just did.
I literally just found that out about Courtney, is that she like is fine with peeing in pools. So I was like, that's like never crossed my mind. I would never do that.
Peeing in the shower?
Yeah, of course.
What?
No, I don't pee in the shower. I will pee in like the ocean or like Lake Michigan. No pools, no shower peeing.
Just don't. You know what? Nobody has to.
But it's work that you're already doing as a decent person. You're not peeing on the sidewalk everywhere. You're not taking a pee in your car. You're pulling over like.
The pool, it dissolves in less than 6 seconds.
I mean, especially if it's a public pool, like the amount of fucking chlorine that they put in those things.
Oh, it's insanity.
But
yeah, there's probably.
Well, I also don't want to face it because I'm doing it. Fair enough, but I maybe it's part of it that I don't want to face that. Like if I'm doing it, that definitely means somebody else by me is doing it. I just don't want to think about it.
That may be fair.
Really? You like swimming with a full bladder? No thanks.
No, so I can get out and pee.
Horrible.
The next one is that the universe is a simulation.
100%. 100%. It's glitching all over the place. It's crazy. These NPCs are wild.
I don't know, but I don't think that it matters.
That's fair. I don't truly I don't fully buy into it, but the one thing I saw a TikTok that really started making me question it, and it's talking about if the world's not a simulation, then how is it in my car I can reach over and touch the other door, right? And it's one person. But we can put a fucking bus in here that has 3 people, a whole walkway, and another 3 people, and it fits in the same fucking lane.
Yeah. It hurts my head.
It doesn't make sense.
There's no way.
That one hurt my. I saw that video, and that one hurt my head.
I
was
think
like,
about that constantly. I
Yeah,
think about it all the
There's,
time.
there's no chance.
Cue the X-Files music. There's just too many things we can't explain. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll agree with that.
It's ridiculous, right? Last one. Ooh, this one's a spicy take. The Beatles are overrated.
Take it soft.
my answer is yes, but I have a respect for them for sure. Like you have to have respect for them. But yeah, I just think I like the people that cover their songs more personally. But
Yeah, I think if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would have said absolutely, because it wasn't my thing. I didn't enjoy listening to it. And I think I have two thoughts about it that I'll be quick about because they're hot takes. But like on the one hand, it's like crowd mentality, like everyone likes them, so I should, and that was just not my vibe back in the day. So I was not about it. If everyone else liked it, I did not. And then the other is like that the music didn't seem very musical, like it was so simple. And so speaking of like gatekeeping, it's like, well, is it really that like special? But now I see it as like that was like a whole fucking movement. I mean, that was mania, that was insanity. Like now I have this whole perspective on it and the influence they've had, and like us talking about how simple music can be, and that's still in and of itself like the magic of it. Like I have a lot more respect for them now. Do I listen to them by choice ever? No. They're not, it's not really my cup of tea. But I do I don't think they're overrated simply because like of the fact that they spread so far and wide. I mean, it's just insane. Like you can't really deny that. It doesn't even matter if their music is simple or you don't like it. Like, so what?
Yeah.
I feel like for a band like the Beatles, no single person has the right to use the word overrated. There's something better to use. And chances are I'll agree with you because I don't listen to them either. Like I have delved into all sorts of genres and stuff, and like they earn a whole lot of, credit. They did a whole lot for music. They were like one of the first internationally known bands. Like there's a lot that you can't deny them. And so I feel like that's the wrong word.
Right.
Do I think that like people probably overinflate how much they like the Beatles? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Like today, yeah, absolutely. Like I don't think that you're adding any value. Like you're not adding any value to me as a person by saying that you're a Beatles fan. I'll take it or leave it. Like, but I don't know.
The closest thing I can think of for some reason is we are both huge Justin Bieber fans, and like from the jump, like his first viral video, we were on it. Like I obsessed. I mean, I cannot get through a concert of his without absolutely sobbing my eyes out. And like most people just will not understand. And I literally don't give a rat's ass. Like I actually don't care. Yes, I'm 30. Yes, I love Justin Bieber, and I don't care what you think about it. And I'm happy that Beatles fans get to have a similar thing, because it's like, hey, he's like one of the most famous people in the world, whether you like it or not. And the fact that you hate him so much, I feel bad because you're gonna have to hear a lot about him until we die. So for
But
me,
I think,
I love him.
yeah, I think that's it for me too, is like musically, do the Beatles hold up over time? No. Like their songs
Mhm.
do not hold up over time. It's too far removed from the current soundscape that we're
In multiple ways.
Mhm.
Yeah. As a lyricist, they're all some of the best lyric writers that have ever existed. If you were just to read their words as poetry or whatever, like hands down.
Mhm.
And again, the impact that they had in the music industry by no means is overrated. Like they absolutely changed it. But I think that's where the context is like, are we talking about the impact that they had or the love of the music? Because if it's love of the music,
Uh-huh.
it's out of date. I don't care.
Yep.
Like I still like a couple of their songs, whatever. But like Courtney said, I'm never going to purposely go and be like, I want to hear Hey Jude today. Never once has happened.
No.
Yeah, that's kind of like where I'm coming from too. Like, yeah, I grew up like just listening to like pop radio and like Justin Bieber like in middle school. Like that's just what I listened to. And then like by the time I like got to the Beatles, like when I was older, I was like, I'm not gonna listen to this. I was like, this doesn't sound like. Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, it's
Yeah,
funny because to
awesome.
me, like that's the one area like I am on board with literally every other kind of music that I've heard, and for some reason I stop short at the Beatles. I don't get it. Everything before and everything after them, I am totally cool with, and have found bands in all sorts of genres that I will vibe with actively, intentionally, all the time. They're just never one of them. I can't explain it, but
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, obviously they did something right because
yeah. Oh,
we still
absolutely.
talk about them, but I do think, like I said, that it's more like musically and sonically. No, they're overrated by today, especially by today's standard and what the music transitioned to. But there's zero, like, you just can't take away what Beatlemania did for the music industry. Like, it just
Absolutely.
opened so many doors. But so to kind of wrap things up, the last little segment is just for you guys. I'll obviously link all the socials and everything, but where can people find you? What's the best way to interact? What do you want to brag on? Um, you mentioned earlier that the song drops on the 17th, which I think I knew. I will make sure this podcast goes live the same day, so we'll try to double hype it there.
Sweet.
But yeah, give everybody what they need to know.
Yeah, I mean, right now, that song, that's the best way you can support. Pre-saving it, following us on Spotify or streaming, listening to it on the 17th and beyond when it comes out. That's definitely the big thing for us right now. We have more music that exists that is in the queue and ready. So if you like One More Night, you're gonna love what comes next. Other than that, chat with us on TikTok because we are super active on there, and it is me that responds to all the comments, and I love talking to everybody. And then if you're in Chicagoland, we do have a couple shows for the end of the year. We'll be playing in the Chicago suburbs in Lisle next Sunday on the 19th. And then we're also playing in Wicker Park on December 2nd. It's a Saturday. We'll be supporting our friends, The Orphan, The Poet, which will be super fun. And it'll be a great show. You can hear One More Night live, the fresh new version, and it's going to be great. Oh, and we haven't announced it yet, but we made One More Night specific merch, and it looks so sick. It's awesome. And so that'll be available on our website, and then hopefully trying to figure out how to integrate it with Spotify. It's a bunch of HTML stuff. I post TikToks for my job. I don't code things. I'm so lost.
It
But
sounds like
we'll
Josh could help
figure
with
it out.
that.
I might be able to help with that. So I do a
Yeah.
little bit of
Help me
web
with
design stuff.
Shopify.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Do not. Oh my gosh. Look at our website and
Can't be any worse. I mean, we all grew up learning how to code on MySpace, right? Like,
fair enough. Zanga. Did you ever do Zanga?
yeah,
That was my
yeah,
shit. I wasn't really a MySpace girly, but I was a Zanga girly for sure.
yeah. Awesome. No,
That
that's
exciting?
Ian. You good?
Yeah, I think so. I covered it,
Okay.
or she covered it pretty well. Just yeah, follow us and actively participate because we will be there to respond to you and all that stuff. And we want to know like if you like it, and, like not in like a weird ego way, but like you just heard Courtney explain why this means so much to her. So like you'd be doing her a disservice to deny letting her know if it means something to you. We very
Yeah.
much welcome that.
Yeah. And I tell people all the time too, like all the free shit matters just as much as buying a t-shirt nowadays. Like, listen to the song, share it with your friends, comment, all those little things. Commenting and liking a TikTok video ends up spider webbing it into everybody else's algorithm. Do all the free
Exactly.
shit. It takes 2 seconds to double tap your screen.
Yeah. I think the way that we're looking at that right now is like if you want to help us, do the free shit. If you want to help you, get some merch and rep it. Like we're not at a stage where we're like sustained by this
Right.
like financially. If you want us to help us get there, it's the free shit that's gonna help us like get to bigger audiences and stuff. So
Making music's expensive.
yeah.
Merch helps.
Very much. Very
Yeah.
much. So
It looks really cool. I can't wait. We'll have to send you if you like either of the designs, Josh. Just let us know. We'll have
yeah.
to send you one.
Yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
We'll definitely figure something out there. So I'm stoked for you guys. I found you on TikTok, like I said, and reached out, and that's how we arranged all this. So I think that there's definitely room in this genre, whatever we want to call it, pop punk, emo, whatever. I hate fucking genre labels because they don't matter anymore. Nobody fits in a box. But I think there's so much space within in this soundscape that is untapped. And I think the thing that you guys are doing that's really, really cool is really putting yourself out there in the authenticity of the music and making sure that it's not just the, oh, we thought this would be fun. It's the, hey, this is real. Let's go talk about it. And that's what's going to bring those fans in and keep them close, because, you know, that's what keeps every one of us going to our favorite bands and finding that new song. So stoked for you guys. Like I said, we'll keep you posted. This will go live the same day as the single dropping. And yeah, we'll see if I can't make it up to a show sometime soon.
Yes,
Hell
that'd
yeah.
be great.
Yeah.
Can I take a screenshot of us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, let me
Alright.
hold on. Let me unlock my computer again so that I have nice lighting. Okay.
Oh, wow, so different. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yay.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome. I appreciate it, guys. We'll definitely, like I said, we'll keep you posted on everything. And yeah, I'm stoked.
Yeah, this
Yeah,
was
this
a
was a
blast.
blast.
Thank you.
Yeah, not
For
a
having
problem.
us.
Yeah, absolutely, guys. I'm sure we'll talk soon, maybe another episode when you've got an EP and an album coming and all that fun stuff. So
Hell
Let's
yeah.
go. And I owe you.
yep,
See
for
you
sure.
then.
We owe you one record.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Bye.